What's up everyone, my name is Mike and welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to talk about a little bit of Veve FUD that I've found. Let's get into this. Now, no new platform is going to be without its downsides, but I think it's really important that even though I'm really excited about the future of Veve, there's some things that are a little bit worrisome. We've talked about it in the past with some videos, just talking about the downsides of Veve, but there's one really important thing that we need to talk about in terms of whether or not our collectibles are going to increase in price in the short term, mid-term, and long term. And ultimately what this comes down to is whether or not Veve can get new users into the platform and get them to purchase more gems into the platform, or whether old members and existing members are going to be continually purchasing gems onto the platform. Because without that gem number increasing, we just won't see a run up in collectibles. We won't see those collectibles increasing in price. But it's not just about the amount of gems that are being purchased or new users being brought onto the app that are purchasing gems. It's also about the amount of collectibles that they are putting out onto the market and the price for those collectibles. Because as more collectibles are added onto the market, so too does the price dilute from other collectibles to get into those collectibles. For example, let's just say there's one collectible on the platform to purchase. And let's just say that with all the users, there's 10 gems to purchase that collectible. Well, we'll see a run up in that price of that collectible, and those 10 gems will be allocated to that collectible. But what happens when another collectible is added onto the platform? Well, now we have two collectibles and we still have the same number of gems. So those gems will flow into that second collectible. And then depending on the demand of that collectible, it might be an equal 50-50 split. It could be more, it could be less. But the only way for that initial collectible to continue to be worth 10 gems or more and appreciate over time is if more gems are added into the platform by users. And that actually needs to be equal to or greater than the cost to be able to get that second collectible on the drop. So if those collectibles list prices to be able to purchase them exceed the amount of gems being purchased onto the platform, we see a dilution of our collectibles across the board as people try to purchase those collectibles for their list price. Now, this isn't the only variable that we need to consider, and this is a very simplified version of the problem. But the other variable is the burns, because as collectibles are purchased in the aftermarket, there is an amount of gems that will leave the platform for licensor fees and for Veve. And those need to be considered because those are no longer part of the gem liquidity on the platform. It's not allocated to any collectibles, it's not in any wallets, it's gone. So if the new collectibles list prices plus the gems leaving the platform from secondary purchases exceed the amount of gems being purchased onto the platform in a specific time period, we see a dilution of our collectibles and the prices begin to decrease as the gems that were allocated to those initial collectibles start to go into other collectibles. This is where we see floor prices begin to decrease. But is this the case with Veve? Do we see month after month a decrease in list prices? Do we see run-ups? Well, it's varied from month to month. And I've collected data from November through to February, though we're not at the very end of February. But this will give you a better picture as to the amount of gems coming into the platform, the amount being allocated to new collectibles, and the amount being burned. It will also provide insight as to what Veve needs to do in the future to continue to bring on more gems into the platform with their drops and to be able to control their drops. So this chart that you're seeing shows the date followed by the market cap of the list prices for new collectibles entering the platform. For example, if there's 30,000 comics being dropped, we multiply that by the 6.99 gem list price to get that 209,700. This is because gems need to be allocated to that for that drop from elsewhere in Veve or by new purchases of gems. The second column is the gems being purchased, and the third column is the gems being burned, so leaving the app. And November was highlighted by the Golden Moments statues by Disney. It's actually what brought me onto the platform, and as well as many others. As you can see, there was a huge run up in mid-November of the amount of gems being purchased. And with November being a really busy month for the amount of drops that happened, we see almost about 16 million gems worth of collectibles being dropped at their list prices. But we see about 57 million gems being purchased in the same time period. So evidently the collectibles that came onto the platform drew a lot of new users in and allowed them to purchase gems and get in on the action. And with all that, we see about 23 million gems being burnt. And that gives us a surplus of 18 million gems to be invested into other collectibles, to be used elsewhere at really any point in time, or to be reserved in people's wallets for future purchases. Now, December is a little bit of a slow month, but we did see the Steamboat Willie as well as the Coca-Cola snow globes being dropped. Those are two of the highlights, I'd say. And in December, we see about a 2 million gem decline in list prices of collectibles entering the space, had about 13 million total. And we see a major decline of 20 million gems down to about 37 million gems being added to the platform. And yet the secondary market is still just as active at 21 million gems being burnt during this time period. And with all that, we see about 2 million gems in surplus after it's all said and done with that month of December. Now, that was a much weaker month than November, but I'm sure with November being so strong, people were holding on to gems in their wallet and were able to make more purchases throughout the month of December, which shows with the amount of gems being burnt, being that it's just as equal from December and November being compared. I'm sure a lot of users that came in for those golden moments didn't quite do their research on Veve, didn't quite know that you couldn't withdraw at this point in time, so perhaps they're leaving their gems on the sideline in their wallets because December doesn't see a major run-up. It's January where we see that major run-up. So what happens in January? Well, January is a really slow month to get started, but it only gets more and more gems being added to the platform. And it's around mid-January to late January where we see a major run-up in gems being purchased onto the platform. And this could likely be the cause of Veve moving from the Go chain to the Ethereum network, which was major news, a major catalyst to bring people to the platform, as well as possibly Andre Jick being a financial YouTuber, bring more attention to the platform with 2 videos that he did on Veve from that mid-January to late January period. And with the 2 major drops during this month being the Marvel Mighty Spider-Man and Mickey lenticular cards not happening till the end of the month, we see this major influx of gems. And in January, we see more gems being purchased than ever, with 62 million coming onto the platform. But the list price of collectibles entering the platform is much less, being almost 10 million. And the secondary market is even busier than ever, with 30 million gems being burnt, which is evident why we saw such a run-up in January. And so with that, we get a major surplus of more than 22 million gems to be allocated to other collectibles during this time period. And this is where we see a major run-up in our collectibles in the month of January. But something happens in February to cause our collectibles to drop quite significantly. And it starts off slow and it gets a little bit more until the end of month where we are, and we're finally seeing a little bit of an uptick. But let's talk about this a little bit here. The 2 main drops from this month are the Valentine's Day Golden Moments, and then at the end of the month that we just saw, the James Bond Aston Martin. We see the list price of the amount of collectibles entering the platform being really high. Almost as high as November was, yet we see the amount of gems being purchased during this time period as low as December was. However, we do have a couple more days to go, so it'll probably exceed that by a little bit. And so with the amount of list price of collectibles coming onto the platform being really high, along with the amount of gems being added to the platform being about half of what it was in January, and the burns being more than 23 million, we're left with a 4.7 million gem loss in the month of February. So evidently less gems to go into other collectibles during this time period. And pairing that with news of the MTL being rolled out, so people are likely selling and holding gems in their wallet, as well as gem squeezes going on for those 2 major collectibles that were dropped, we saw a major rollback in our collectibles across the board in the month of February. So what does this mean for Veve? Well, first off, this year is going to be a very pivotal moment in what they become in the future, as well as the people that they attract onto the platform. It's incredible what Veve has been able to do for the average person wanting to invest into NFTs. They've made it open to everyone. If there's limited barrier to entry, you bring on a wide range of people coming onto the platform. You bring on investors, speculative investors, people just wanting to get in on something, or collectors. But just because a platform like this brings on more users doesn't mean it's the right users for the platform. And you can interpret that however you want, but the main thing is that if you have a platform that's meant for everyone, the amount of users does not necessarily mean the amount of gems entering the platform is going to increase over time through those users. What the platform needs is the right users that are willing to put on gems into this platform throughout the long term, that see the upside with Veve and the NFTs that they're releasing. I think it's good that they're appealing to a much broader audience, but with that comes users that are not necessarily adding gems to their wallets through the short term, midterm, and long term. They're just here to get in on the action, which is totally fine. I'm just talking about the long-term economics of Veve being able to bring in more gems to the platform to allow collectibles to see an uptrend in what they're worth. Additionally, they need to look at their collectibles that they're dropping and deciding whether or not it's a long-term play for them that's going to be good for the community. Eventually, they're going to run out of significant comics to drop. So we're going to likely see comics that are being dropped that maybe don't see first appearances of characters, that don't really add much to the collective value of them. Yet I still think they're going to sell out with that list price, which means more gems are being taken away from other collectibles to go into that initial drop. And if these drops are not valued, we'll see them definitely decrease, but also other collectibles suffer as a result of that. Obviously, it's difficult for Veve to drop significant drop after significant drop after significant drop, but it definitely brings in more users and more gems, as we saw in November. And I also think this latest drop with the James Bond Aston Martin was going to see a significant uptick, as we saw with the amount of gems entering the platform for it. These big drops are big news for Veve. It allows them to get out there more, and I really support at least 1 or 2 major drops in a month for that to happen. They just need to be planned appropriately, and I'm sure Veve is looking at what I've talked about in this video at a much more fine scale to be able to judge what they're doing going forward with their market. But there's one major problem with this, and that is the MTL. People being able to withdraw gems from this platform. Obviously, I'm in full support of that. It's incredible what they've been able to do for some people, but this is another variable that we're going to need to consider. And I think we're in for a rough 6 months or so until that has been fully rolled out to everyone, for everyone to be able to withdraw from. Because with everything I've talked about here, we also now need to subtract the amount of gems being withdrawn from the platform, because that's being taken away from our collectibles. Now, I'm sure we've seen quite a bit of it happen in February with how much we've declined. People are holding gems in their wallets more, preparing to be able to withdraw. But this is going to continue until it's completely rolled out to everyone. And so what does Veve need to do to bring more users onto the app with these big drops? Well, we saw them release the golden moments in February, and those haven't really done as well as I'd expect at this point in time, even though one of those golden moments are 2 very popular characters. So I don't think revisiting past series is going to be something that really helps them. Especially considering I feel like the Aston Martin 007 drop, the secret rare, should be valued much higher than what it actually is given its scarcity, and when comparing it to others in the platform. I think what we need are big drops, and big drops of new brands that the platform hasn't seen or hasn't seen enough of just yet. So these next 6 months, if I were Veve, I would have some amazing drops lined up. Things we've never seen before, brands we've never seen before, brands that we've been anticipating for so long. Because until MTL is rolled out fully, we're gonna see a continual drop in the amount of gems on the platform in relation to how many collectibles are on the platform. We'll see our collectibles dilute in prices. I'm sure we haven't seen the end of that, but what will bring in more gems is the noise that they'll make with incredible drops until that MTL is rolled out. That's my thought, that's my opinion. Let me know what you think about all of this that I've talked about in the comment section below. I'd love to know your thoughts about this. What did I miss? What am I not taking into consideration? Leave it in the comment section below. If you found this video at all helpful, please give me a like. It's really appreciated. And subscribe to my YouTube channel for more Veve content. Thank you so much for